So pleased to welcome to the show for New Media Monday, a tech and business executive leading operations, strategy, and development in hyper growth markets. She really specializes in socially impactful businesses, mission-driven companies. So important in these times. Qiana P., welcome to the front page. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad to be here with all your listeners.
Good morning. So, I want to actually thank you. I know it's kind of weird, but for HopSkipDrive, which probably saved me as a mom. It's one of those things. My kid is, older now, but at that last year and the year before when he was a little younger, being able to, rely on a company that, makes you feel like you can go to work and not worry is really helpful.
I love to hear that. And I think that all of us within HopSkipDrive appreciate parents like you who trust us, often on almost every day to shuttle their child back and forth. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, for those who aren't familiar, it's like, Lyft for kids, but they give you the background of the driver and the driver's picture. And if you're not comfortable with the driver, you can request another one, and then they track the ride. It's, a lot of working moms and dads use it. And so thankful for that. Here we are in the middle of this incredible worldwide movement of anti-racism. And how do you see that resonating or making change within the world of tech, particularly those socially innovative companies?
And it's such a great question. I think that we have a lot of headwind and a lot of momentum. It's something that many of us African Americans and certainly other people of color within the tech industry have been pushing for a very long time. And I think given what we've experienced this summer and spring with COVID and civil and social unrest, I believe that now tech companies are actually listening. They're open to new ways of thinking, hiring more people, and actually unpacking and investigating why their companies, why their boardrooms look the way that they do. And what they say now is that they will be putting not only money and dollars, but also interrogating why their companies look the way that they do, and actually committing to change. Now, that's something that we had not heard before, although many of us have been pushing for change for many, many, many years.
So it feels different to you right now?
Absolutely different. Like I said, we have, Fortune 100, 500 companies putting forth dollars. We have those companies also publicly committing to change, giving timelines, deadlines, and actually stating what they plan on doing, either with the dollars that they have, set aside, or we've already seen, a board shifts and changes. So I think this is different. I still think that we have a long way to go. This is by no means the end, I don't see the end in sight. I think it is paramount that we continue to push for change and hold them accountable. I think that's the piece that we had been missing, was accountability.
Yeah. How do we as consumers help make that accountability real? I mean, we know that Black people use a lot of these tech platforms more than other people, and we make them fun, right? So right. How do we leverage that creative, I guess, capital and create accountability?
It's African Americans in particular have long been innovators in the social innovation space and the economy of whether it's Twitter or Facebook. We drive trends. And I think that the shift that we're seeing now is we're taking that power that we have and being really trendsetters and using that as campaigns against companies who either have zero diversity or very little diversity in terms of executive positions. One thing that I would say as an example is there's a founder by the name of Sharon. She's a founder of Oma Beauty. It's a beauty makeup company, and she created this out of this unrest. She created this campaign called Pull Up or Shut Up, and she really called out companies to post their diversity numbers and commit to change. Now, what that happened was other people started going to their brands that they like, whether it be makeup or, fashion or what have you, and ask them on their social media accounts, have you pulled up? Have you, committed to change? Have you posted your numbers? And that forced companies to admit publicly what their numbers were, what they had or hadn't done up until that point. And really what people started doing, and we have done before, is we started voting with our dollars. And we said, well, I want to figure out what are some Black and brown businesses that I can support in particular. If I'm not going to, buy from this particular fashion house or this beauty brand, then which Black-owned company founder can I support? And so now we see this huge shift into supporting Black businesses. And now we just have creating lists of, and websites solely dedicated to purchasing goods and services from small businesses and alike. And one of the fascinating things I could, as an example, someone posted in a Slack group that I'm a part of, does anyone know any Black-owned paint companies? I'm thinking about doing, interior painting rooms in my house. And instantly 3 people responded, have you looked at Claire, which is a Black-owned interior paint company. And so she, a week later, she said, I purchased, this and this color. So it's fascinating that we're using all kinds of technology at this point to share information about which companies value our dollars, which companies value our ingenuity, our creativity, and really do want us as partners and supporters of their brands. So I think that, companies are definitely listening, and they will feel it even more so as dollars shift to brands that we believe support us and value us.
Speaking of valuing us, I mean, here you are, clearly, very successful in the tech space, VP of Strategic Development there at HopSkipDrive. What advice would you give, or what thoughts would you give to people that are considering, especially Black people, women, working in the tech space?
Oftentimes we find ourselves the only one, or we find ourselves one of few in tech companies. And the sort of biggest advice that I can say is to understand sort of what your purpose is in that particular company, and ensure that you essentially have a village of people inside and outside who are advocating. So lots of people talk about making sure you have a mentor, making sure that you have someone who has your back. And while I believe that mentorship is important, I think that we need to have advocates. I think that we need to have co-conspirators in our dreams, right? And so whether or not I have the ear of the CEO or I have someone on the outside recognizing the work that I'm doing that can help, buoy me to the next thing, whatever that may be. So we need to have people who are internally advocating for us. And we also need to have people external, people that you can talk to when you think something just might not be right. I need someone who gets me, who understands. And that may not be in the company that you're in, but you can have people who are on the outside supporting you, listening to you. There's tons of Slack groups that we've created. These are online groups that we are able to be freely ourselves and get advice on a multitude of things. And I think those are the things that are really important. And I also, in particular for Black women, I encourage us always to own our voice, and ensure that you don't get drowned out by, people who would seek to silence you. And I know that's really hard, but part of that is making sure that you have people who are championing you on the outside as well.
Great points. What about some innovative, impactful companies that maybe we should know about in the tech space, Qiana?
post-COVID, when we can, officially say post-COVID and what we're seeing now in terms of trends, a lot of people are talking about what happens if we don't go back to work, right? Will telecommuting increase, right? So all the things that are related to telecommuting that, that you don't think of initially, but how often will we be driving anymore? And do you need to lease a car? Will there be companies that rise during this time that, not just a rental or Uber or Lyft or HopSkipDrive, but will there be short-term type of leasing with big car makers who have, in all honesty, have actually been pushing for that over the last few years. And I think now we're going to be in a space where that becomes a much bigger thing. I think we're thinking about sustainability and certainly the rise of e-commerce and what happens to retail. So if you're a small business and you have a location, a physical location, like if you're Essalon or you're anyone else, a small Black-owned bookstore, how do you ensure that you bolster your business for online retail? Because that is definitely going to be something that, it continues to grow. And so what are the support mechanisms, what we like to call the back end, that helps you as a small business catapult your online presence, which I think is a big thing. And the last thing I would say is mental health and really telemedicine. So what happens in this world when you don't necessarily want to go anywhere? Well, now we have all of these mechanisms that allow us to see the doctor, virtually, who can diagnose you, who can do all these things. And I think that we're going to see insurance companies and big medicine and big hospital systems embrace more telemedicine and increase that. And so we want to make sure that those people who have who have limited internet access, may not have the most, newest device, making sure that all that technology works across a plethora of internet capabilities and devices, which I think is the next thing that we need to ensure that we focus on.
Just a minute left here. My phone is yelling at me. I want to ask you, though, as a former teacher, now working, in tech, what do our teachers need if we're going to keep this distance learning? What do we need to make it work? What kind of training? What kind of tools?
Like you said, training and support. None of us when we go to school and we get our credential and our degrees in education, we do not take a course titled Teaching During a Pandemic, Administering During a Pandemic. And so everyone needs to understand that, this is a whole new world, right? We prep for earthquakes in LA. We prep for different tsunamis if you're somewhere else, right? If you're in Hawaii. But we didn't prep for a pandemic. And so we need to understand and give grace, and extend some patience with education systems that are largely revolve around going to a location, and what does that look like? And I think that our educators and everyone involved in the education systems are really trying their very best to balance safety, health, right? The mental health of not only the students, but also the teachers. And I think that, collaboration and patience is one of the key things. Online learning, as we know it right now, is not foolproof. And so how do we center the social emotional well-being of both the students and the teachers, I think, is the thing that is the most critical piece right now when it comes to learning.
Qiana, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Hope you'll come back again.
Yes, thanks for having me. Thank you.
We got to go, family. Until next time, Radio Free Family, one love.